We just approved 50 billion euros for Ukraine. So altogether, our assistance so far is 150 billion euros, which is, I would say, at this stage twice as high as the American one, even though we, of course, clearly know that without U.S., especially the military supplies, the situation in Ukraine would be very, very dramatic. So we clearly been kind of pleading, hoping, and arguing that how the U.S. component of this assistance is absolutely crucial. If the Ukrainians need help sometime, it's now, and I hope that both of us will deliver and will help Ukraine to defend itself.
Do European leaders believe it's just a matter of time for the U.S. to complete its debate and get this done, that it will eventually happen?
I mean, we've been really encouraged, but very strong statements coming from the President Biden and from the White House, and also administration officials yesterday have been very clear that they want this to happen. Very much encouraged by the votes in the Senate. But of course, I know that this is not the last step in that process. But I mean, looking at what's happening in Ukraine, I think it's clear that it should be imperative to help them to get them the means to defend themselves, because they are also defending our set of values.
Well, you've got LNG on your agenda as well. You had an important meeting this morning, I know, with executives. I saw on Twitter you were meeting with President Biden's energy advisor, Amos Hochstein, who spent a lot of time with us here at Bloomberg talking about energy policy. What did he tell you about the administration's decision to halt LNG export approvals and its potential impact on Europe?
Yeah. I think that also in my meetings yesterday with Amos and other top representatives of the administration, I was highlighting the fact that probably this is new for United States of America, but U.S. has really become the guarantor of the global energy security. So any statement coming from the Washington, D.C. on the matter of LNG, on the matter of energy supplies, immediately has, I would say, kind of rippling effect all across the global markets. And therefore, I have to say that I was very pleased yesterday. I was reassured that this would not affect Europe in the coming couple of years, that by 2030, actually, the export capacity of U.S. LNG sector should double, and that U.S. will play this very important role, helping us to shift away from Russian fossil supplies, because without U.S. LNG supplies, I mean, we would be in very, very tough place. Anyway, we've been in the worst energy crisis since 70s over the last 2 years. So for us, it's of course extremely important. And if you look a little bit beyond Europe, and therefore my underscoring of this global responsibility of the United States is the fact that I was working very closely with John Kerry in Dubai.
Yeah,
there is clear pledge to phase out coal. And if you look, that gas has only half of carbon intensity of coal. How much of the gas would be needed in India, in Southeast Asia, and all the places? So I think that clearly the LNG sector of the US would have, I would say, global role to play.
Is it safe to say then that the U.S. has provided you assurances when it comes to LNG supply while these reviews take place?
Yes, I was reassured yesterday by all my interlocutors, including in the discussion with Mr. John Podesta. On top of it, it was highlighted that there is also reference to eventually then eventual situations of the emergency character, and we had very, very good dialogue with the administrations throughout the years since the war in Ukraine started. And I think that the fact that U.S. LNG is now the number one exporter to Europe is just proof that we found the solution, and 56 billion cubic meters came. It was even 6 billion above that political agreement which President Biden had with my boss, President von der Leyen. And of course, we hope for more in the future. So I was actually presenting to the LNG exporters, how our common purchase of gas platform functions, how we're aggregating demand, how we are bringing new potential customers to them. And I was also highlighting that we are going to offer new product where the contracts up to 5 years would be now possible. And we are starting the market survey even on a longer term, up to 20 years, depending if that would be interesting for buyers in Europe and bidders in the States. And therefore, we just wanted to start the conversations with them.
So 5 years of security is what you're talking about here. That sounds like you get almost to 2030 when this would all be done in the U.S.
I think that when I was referring to the 5 years, I was referring to the contracts now
Sure.
the bidders could sign on the platform which we created for common purchase of gas. But I know that a lot of like trade is going also outside of the platform, and most of the bids which came from US LNG been well placed in Europe, and they supplied 56 billion cubic meters, which was very important because, just to give you one figure, before the war we've been importing up to 150 billion cubic meters from Russia. Now we're down to 40, and we had to found new 100 billion cubic meters within the space of 1 year. So I mean, you would appreciate how challenging that was, and we even had to curtail the consumption, lower some energy activity in energy intensive industries, and of course we want again to perform at our optimal potential if it comes to European economy.
I have to ask you about stories that were reporting about Venture Global. What can you tell us about this ongoing dispute with Venture Global and the contracts that BP and Shell and some European companies say should start now?
Of course, I mean, it's very difficult for us to comment because I understand that it's under the litigation, so most probably there will be a court hearing and court eventually decision in that regard. So we haven't seen the contracts, and what is very important for us that also this situation settles as soon as possible, because we want also the long-term contracts which have been signed to be respected and appropriate level of gas supplied to EU, because I am absolutely convinced that we are closest allies of United States of America, and we go through a rough patch with two wars very close to our borders, with all the repercussions you might imagine.
You're aiming for carbon neutrality in 2050. The UN asks for 2040. What's the difference?
I think we, of course, the huge difference is that to become carbon neutral. I mean, Europe believes that we will be the first carbon neutral continent. I think the United States of America have the similar ambition, and it's no mean feat. It's extremely challenging, because I think we progress a lot with energy sector, but to kind of phase out fossil fuels for heating and cooling of the buildings, from transport, from aviation, it's a challenge. So therefore we are I would say carefully planning how this can be done. A lot would depend on the technological development, and therefore I was so thrilled when I visited MIT this weekend. I was on Saturday in the fusion lab, and I think that I saw the future, because I mean these guys, what they are doing there, it's pretty impressive. I'm glad that this is EU-US cooperation, that there are also European big companies investing in that venture, and that could bring us the clean energy we need.